No, whenever you guys are.
Okay. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Supervisor Moore.
Present.
Councilwoman McNamara.
Present.
Councilman Isili.
Here.
Councilman Pell.
Here.
Councilman Stevens.
Present.
All right, we have the agenda review, and there'll be two public hearings. Well, one is with respect to considering amendments to the town code regarding road review requirements, and the other is for the adoption of the updated pattern book, which we haven't gotten the revised draft yet, so I would suggest that we put that hearing over for another, till the next month, maybe the September 10th meeting.
Gotta give enough time for people.
Right
to
now, I
I
mean,
mean, I'm just
the
saying.
changes were
You know, well, we
kind
didn't
of-
get any changes back, so we have to review the revised draft, so I don't want to do that at the public hearing.
Plus you want to have the people.
I
have
would
enough
want it
time.
to delay another month. Excuse me, Bill.
Well, I don't want to be looking at the changes at the public hearing
Me neither.
on
It's
Tuesday.
2 weeks, and I would support putting it off till the 10th if we had a notice of adoption on the same night. Would that suffice?
Yeah, I guess that would work. That would work. And
Yeah, so
I
if
by no
everyone's
means want to
comfortable
rush
with-
it. I liked it the way it was,
You know,
but
if
you know,
everyone's
that's fine.
comfortable with it at that point, then we can go ahead and adopt it, but if not, we can always adjourn it for more discussion. But there were a lot of comments at the last hearing that we had that Janice is incorporating into the book, and as far as I know, I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but I didn't get it back yet.
No, I didn't either.
Okay,
I'm fine with that.
so let's go ahead with the resolutions.
Town Board Resolution 957 of 2024, resolution of adoption amending Town Code Chapter 312-26 prohibiting parking CR 80 Montauk Highway, East Quogue. I'm still waiting on the county on that.
So
Can I
we're
ask
still
a
waiting
question
for
about
the
that?
county.
So what did we decide on the public hearing?
We closed it.
So we're going to have a public hearing in September with a possible notice of adoption.
Oh,
We're
on
gonna
the
work
pattern
session-
book?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm still on that. You know,
What's the question?
so we're going to put this public hearing over to September 10th,
Yes,
and then we're going to put a notice of adoption if we like it. You know.
On the same.
Are we going to have a work session
it
between then?
depends.
Because I know there was a lot of questions. I mean, you know, should we have this public hearing as well?
You have no
And then-
choice but to open this public hearing
Okay.
in order to,
That's my understanding.
Yes,
Is that's
absolutely.
you know, but we have moved public hearings in the past, so I'm just clarifying what we're
Yes.
doing here. Because
but you
Okay.
can't do it until this meeting.
okay, that's cool. That's I'm good with that. Thank you.
And so in this, I didn't see that we got anything yet. You said we're still waiting.
Nope, still waiting on the county.
You're still waiting on what?
The county.
The county.
I have a note, you're talking about the resolution.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay. Town Board Resolution 47270, amend Town Board Resolution 23-1284 to revise the distribution of CDVG funds for the fiscal year 2024 and authorize the supervisor to sign the project description forms.
Town Board Resolution ID number 47269 to authorize the purchase of computers for police vehicles from Island Tech Services LLC using Omnia Partners contract and New York State OGS contract.
Awesome. Sunday, could I co-sponsor, please?
Can I? I'm so sorry. Back to Town Board Resolution 47270 on page 6. I am co-sponsor to that. The public service groups that are outlined here, excellent groups. How are those determined? And other groups that are in the community, if they're interested in this, is there a process? Do we know?
It's an application process.
It goes through
Mhm.
Kara's office.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
And Jamie Bowden, and these were what we did last year.
And they have to, and they have,
Mhm.
there's things they have to provide, service, details of what services they provide,
Right.
proof that they've actually done those, they can't just come in and say, we want to do this, give us money. There has to be some,
Right.
some history, some buy-in, and these are all vetted.
So these groups these applied in 23.
Yes.
Got it.
And
Okay.
some we can keep for the town if it's, ADA compliant.
Yes.
improvements.
Yes. Thank you. Perfect.
Town Board Resolution, oh, who's next? I did that one.
Town Board Resolution 47260. Authorized purchase of drop deck tilt trailer from Fella Trail Inc. using Sourcewell contract. Town Board Resolution 47245. Authorized purchase of a 250 Ford van Bolton Ford using NYS contract. Town Board Resolution 47237. Authorized purchase of a Ford F-550 with a dump body from Otis Ford Inc. using NYS contract.
Town Board Resolution ID number 47259, co-sponsored with Councilmember Iacilli, to authorize the purchase of a Ford Transit T350 from Ferrario Ford Inc. using New York State contract.
Town Board Resolution ID 47261, co-sponsored with Councilman Schiavone. Authorized purchases of lab services, soil and groundwater analysis from Pace Analytical Services Incorporated and Long Island Analytical Labs using Suffolk County contract.
Town Board Resolution ID number 47257, to authorize purchases of supply and delivery of auto parts with Advanced Stores Company, DBA Advanced Auto Parts, Grade A Petroleum, Fleet Pride Inc., and Morgan Auto Supply Inc. using the East Hampton contract.
Town Board Resolution 47220, to authorize the supervisor to issue a satisfaction of a buyer benefit note and mortgage on a community benefit unit. Excuse me. Town Board Resolution 47278, co-sponsored with Councilman Pell, and the previous was co-sponsored with Councilmember Iacilli. Excuse me, gentlemen. To authorize the supervisor to sign a contract with GEI Consultants Engineering, Geology, Architecture, and Landscape Architecture to develop a lake management plan for Long Pond and Little Long Pond in Sag Harbor.
Town Board Resolution ID number 47272, to authorize the supervisor to sign a contract with Historical Concepts for professional conceptual design and visioning services for the comprehensive implementation of the Riverside Overlay District zoning.
Town Board Resolution 47144. Authorized purchase of heavy-duty wheel balancing from Mohawk Lift LLC using NYS OGS contract.
Town Board Resolution ID number 47250, to authorize the supervisor to execute a 2024 preventive maintenance agreement with Best Climate Control for maintenance service on the air conditioning and or heating equipment at Southampton Town Police Department main building located at 110 Old Riverhead Road in Hampton Bays.
Town Board Resolution 47281. This is to authorize the supervisor to sign a 2024 South Fork Bakery for the Special Needs Corporation Human Services Grant.
Madam Clerk, if I can be a co-sponsor to that?
Me as well.
Myself too,
Me
please.
too, whole board.
Sorry,
Yeah.
was that everyone, or?
Yes. What's the word missing, Janice?
Authorize supervisor to sign.
24 South Fork.
Right.
I think the special needs, I think the needs to come out.
Were you signing something, a contract, or is it something?
Well, maybe it is right.
Oh, it says grant,
This is
Yeah,
right,
this
it's
is a-
right.
grant.
Right.
It just-
Human
it just
Services
doesn't-
Grant.
It's awkward.
Read well, yeah, but it's
Right.
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 I'm sure Jamie put the actual name for the contract.
Town Board Resolution ID number 47202, to award and authorize the supervisor to sign a contract with ADJO Contracting Corp. for Town Hall sanitary system replacement.
Town Board Resolution ID 47266, co-sponsored with Councilman Iacilli, award and authorize the supervisor to sign a contract with Mercedes-Benz of Southampton for Mercedes-Benz Sprinter cargo van.
Town Board Resolution ID number 47273, co-sponsored by the entire board, to recall and amend Resolution number 2023-1206 as it relates to the source of funding. Town Board Resolution ID number 47265, to adopt the 2025 budget process schedule. Yes, it's that time.
Mm-hmm.
Town Board Resolution ID number 47268, to authorize the general fund pay-as-you-go to purchase roll-off containers.
I'd like to put this one on hold.
Excuse me?
I'd like to put this on hold until next meeting.
It's a recommendation of the town engineer.
And it's
Well,
a supervisor's reso.
yeah,
Yeah, so what,
because I want to make sure they buy the right containers, because he bought containers before and they're not doing the job and they're only 2 weeks old and they're already falling apart.
well, maybe before Tuesday, you could talk to
Okay.
Tom and find out what's happening with that. Yeah, we
Okay.
don't want to buy something if it's not working.
It's not the right thing for the job.
Town Board Resolution ID number 47280 to recall and amend Resolution number 2024-953 to authorize the Highway Fund pay-as-you-go for speed cameras.
Town Board Resolution ID 47276, accept a donation for the Division of Senior Services in memory of Lester Elliston. Mr. Elliston appreciated all the work of the Bridgehampton Senior Center and left a $1,000 donation.
Very nice.
On the previous resolution, what's the change? What's the amendment from the original?
Well, we didn't amend it, we were just, but in the meantime, Bill's
I'm
gonna.
gonna go and look. See what,
So maybe Tom would
No, they
request
went
a change.
from
No,
one
the-
No,
contractor.
the speed
From
cameras
Vigilant to Motorola,
Oh, that
Oh,
resolution.
it's
different
the-
manufacturer.
company?
Yeah.
And the numbers are the same? I don't have the previous resolution to.
I think they're
Compared
the
to-
same. It was just under 20,000. And this is also.
And we passed that resolution last time
Mm-hmm.
during our
Yeah.
last town board meeting.
Right, so my question is between that and this, what's the amend? And thank you.
Just
Yeah, it's the company that
Companies.
changes. All right.
Town Board Resolution ID number 47217 to authorize additional funds for legal services by Stephen Leventhal Esquire for ethics matters in 2024. Town Board Resolution ID number 47224 to authorize the settlement of the Suffolk County Department of Health matter ENF-24-00008 for site number SITE-13464-OPC. Town Board Resolution ID number 47256 to authorize the town attorney to file a motion to intervene on behalf of the town of Southampton in the action of the Newburgh Realty II LLC against IPA Asset Management LLC and Island Properties and Associates LLC filed with the Supreme Court under index number 600124-2023. Town Board Resolution ID number 47166 to authorize the town to reimburse New York Municipal Insurance Reciprocal, NYMER, the deductible for bodily injury and property damage claims.
Town Board Resolution ID 47267, co-sponsored by Councilman Iacilli. Authorization of cost reimbursement waiver for the Galilee Church of God in Christ Violence-Free Block Party, which was held on August 24th, 2024, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So it will be held on the 24th, but this weekend. Hence, our meeting will come after.
Right. Town board meeting, yeah.
Past reference. Town Board Resolution 47263, a release of maintenance bond in connection with Hampton Business District.
Town Board Resolution 47149, authorizing the sole assessor to attend the 2024 NYSAA Annual Conference.
Town Board Resolution ID number 47203 to accept the retirement of Elizabeth Roy, Senior Justice Court Clerk in the Justice Court. Town Board Resolution ID number 47244 to appoint Victoria Lopez to Senior Justice Court Clerk position in the Justice Court. Town Board Resolution ID number 47232 to accept the resignation of Thomas Payton III, Police Officer in the Police Department.
On that one, I just wanted to note that Officer Payton is not resigning for any other reason except that he accepted a position at Suffolk County Police Department. So it will be sad to see him go. He is a local resident, he is a veteran, and he is a great officer. So.
Town Board Resolution ID number 47254 to appoint Bernard Mulligan Jr. to Public Safety Dispatcher 3 position from the Civil Service list. Town Board Resolution ID number 47243 to appoint Cameron Hanwright to Harbor Master 1 position in Southampton Town Police Department.
Can I co-sponsor that, please? Thank you.
Town Board Resolution ID number 47236 to appoint Susan Redding to Senior Office Assistant position in Municipal Works. Town Board Resolution ID number 47264 to appoint Johnny Bedell to the Sanitation Helper position in Municipal Works. Town Board Resolution ID number 47235 to appoint Stephanie Orlando to Assistant Senior Citizen Center Manager position from the Civil Service list. Town Board Resolution ID number 47234 to appoint Tony Latanzio to the Office Assistant in General Services. Town Board Resolution ID number 47242 to terminate an employee in the Municipal Works Department.
Town Board Resolution 47247, co-sponsored Councilman Pell. A notice of public hearing to consider the wastewater treatment pollution prevention projects proposed for the 2024 Community Preservation Fund, 20 CPF, 20% Water Quality Improvement Plan grant funding.
And that public hearing will be at our work session, after the work session on September 5th, 2024 at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
Town Board Resolution 47153, a notice of public hearing to consider a local law amending Chapter 316A, abandoned vessel to change procedure of handling of abandoned vessels.
So what's this about? I mean,
Yeah,
I
what's
thought
the
we
difference?
resolved this issue already. What happened?
I don't know, this is the first I saw about it. I did not know this was on this.
This was the one where we said that you could ticket or,
This is the one that we just passed
Yeah.
unanimously. And I drafted it with Public Safety and Marine Patrol, and neither one of them supports this version of this law for safety reasons. So I would ask that everybody, before this goes forward, reach out to Marine Patrol and Public Safety and get their input on this. I also questioned the 48 hours, as we had the Assistant Town Attorney at the podium who handed us the New York State real property law and said that 48 hours would be considered an illegal taking. So I would not like to put him in the position now where he has to get to the podium and say that that's okay, because he is on record saying it's not okay.
Is the 48 hours the change?
the way we
There's a
left
lot
it,
of changes.
the way we left it last time was that at any time that somebody is illegally tied up, they can be ticketed.
Ticketed.
We can impound, but we can't sell it until after 10 days.
10 days.
So that's, I thought everybody was satisfied with that, but,
Bill, I mean, this is your,
I
what's the
I don't
story?
even know how I got to be sponsor of this.
Okay.
all
I
right,
have
so
to
why don't we,
investigate
I mean, if you,
I rather just take it out and investigate it more.
okay,
Okay.
thanks, Bill.
sounds like there's some questions. Okay.
I'm sorry, so you're withdrawing? When you said take it out, do you mean the resolution off the agenda?
Yes.
And then you let us know
Now let
what's
us know.
going
I'll
on.
talk to, I guess
Okay.
Sean's doing it.
Yeah,
I think
Thank
he
you.
would have called me. Lack of communication in that department, I guess.
Town Board Resolution 47262, co-sponsored Councilman Pell. A notice of public hearing to consider the aquatic habitat restoration and non-point source abatement and control projects proposed for 2024 Community Preservation Fund, CPF, 20% Water Quality Improvement Plan grant funding.
and that'll be at after our September
Oh, right.
19th work session.
Yes.
Okay.
A little different this year.
Town Board Resolution 47191, setting a public hearing for a deed of dedication of open space in connection with the final conditional approval of the Rothman Dynasty subdivision in the hamlet of Watermill.
And that'll be on September 24th.
Town Board Resolution ID 47282, notice of public hearing to consider amending Town Code Chapter 330-210, miscellaneous provisions of Article 22, signs, as it relates to the placement of political signs.
So this is returning what are there changes here?
There is changes. I took the feedback from this board. This is actually just clarifying the fact that, if you read the legislative intent, it basically says,
If we're
that-
discussing it, I'm recusing. I don't mean to interrupt
Okay.
you, Councilman. I guess this would be a new one.
It's a new one.
Discussing it?
I'll just read you the legislative intent. It's pretty clear. The town board of the town of Southampton recognizes the changing needs of the general public, seeks to maintain the visual aesthetic of the town, reduce litter and debris, reduce roadway distractions, reduce potential adverse impacts to safety of passing motorists and pedestrians, and reduce clutter on roadways so that directional signs relating to the public health, safety, and welfare may be unobstructed. With respect to Town Code 330-210A, the town board seeks to clarify that while political signs are exempt from permits and fees, the posting of political signs, as with all other signs on town properties and town right-of-ways, remain a violation. And that's already in the code, so all we are doing is clarifying it to say no sign inclusive of political signs other than a sign erected by a governmental agency or permitted under another section of this code shall be erected or placed within the right-of-way lines of a public street, and the town may remove any such signs without notice to owners.
So is this essentially a memorialization
Pretty much,
of
yes.
the existing code?
And it's just making it very clear, because I think, and I myself, it was apparent that not many people understood that. They thought that political signs were just exempt from the code, and when in fact they're only
Well,
exempt.
the way the code is written
It's
does
hard, yes.
provide sort of that language.
But if you actually read it, it says it's only exempt from sections A, B, and C, which are permits, administrative permits, and fees. That's it. It's not exempt from this. But this also, to your point, memorializes the fact that business signs, all their signs, are not permitted in the right of ways.
Can someone ask Tommy John to return to the room, please?
Can you tell Tommy John he can come in?
Good morning, Jim.
Good morning,
Good
Jim.
morning.
Jim?
How was your drive?
You came in at exactly the right moment.
Oh,
Thank you,
I was
Kelly.
late. I was here. I was playing that. So I figured wait till 10:30. Mr. was more than capable of
Are you gonna come back
reading.
for,
Thank you.
thanks.
We'll see ya.
We got
I guess he thought it was gonna be a long discussion and went all the way back to his office.
Do you want me to read his?
he's here.
Right here.
I'm sure he'll want to be here for that.
We're on page 51.
Okay. Recordings are on a slight delay.
got it.
Town Board Resolution 47239, co-sponsored Councilman Yaselli, authorize the acquisition of a workforce housing deed restriction on the property located at 11 Suffolk Street, Sag Harbor, through the Community Housing Fund.
I spoke with Kara about this last night. I didn't realize it was on here, but I did mention to her that something that occurred to me about the, that we shouldn't allow any subsequent mortgages to go on the property without our consent. So she said she was gonna add that language because, if we're paying off a mortgage, we don't
Mhm.
want them to go and borrow more money.
So she'll make that
So,
that
yeah,
addition
might-
to
That's
the
a,
town board.
Yeah,
that's a
she
real
will.
good point.
And so how would that go? Would that be with the approval of the town board, or
Yes.
with just a restriction completely?
It's already in the deed we
Or
got
a
last
I
night.
would think
Without
so.
prior, without prior.
The one that we
approval, I
got
think,
last night had that in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, well, maybe she put it in after our phone conversation
Yeah.
yesterday.
It was definitely in there.
That's a prudent thing to do. Okay.
Nice to have a banker attorney on the.
Town Board Resolution 47246, co-sponsored Councilmember Yaselli, authorize the acquisition of the properties located at 320 McGee Street and 370 Moses Lane in Tuckahoe for the production of community housing through the Community Housing Fund. Excuse me.
Well, can you add my name to that, please? That's co-sponsor.
I'm sorry.
Can you
Yeah.
add my name to it?
You can add me as well,
Me
Cindy,
as well,
please.
Sunday.
You want to be on that too. Or you're on that.
Come on.
So.
All of you?
Yes,
Yes.
please.
Mhm.
Didn't hear the fourth.
Town Board Resolution ID number 47199 to recall and amend Resolution 2020-904 road review application for Kirk Warner. 0900-076.00-05.00-015.000 situate at North Sea is accepted. Town Board Resolution ID number 47196 to recall and amend Resolution 2023-1424 road review application for Take Two Capital LP. Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-382-1-4.6 situated in West Hampton is accepted. And Town Board Resolution ID number 47198, road review application for 8 Luther Drive LLC, Suffolk County Tax number 900-178-01-017.053, situated in Watermill, is accepted.
Town Board Resolution 47187, co-sponsored with the entire board. Recall and amend Town Board Resolution number 652 of 2024 as it relates to donation and transfer of land at the terminus of Bay Bluff Way, Noyak, to the Community Preservation Fund, and amendment of CPF project plan and CPF management and stewardship plan to include the property. This is the, we need to outline the extension of the property, which actually goes out into the water a little bit. So this is a clarification of what is actually being transferred.
Thank you. Okay, so that brings us to our next topic, which is the Tiana Bayside Gabion issue, but I don't see Aram here just yet.
He did call. He said he was going to be about 5 minutes.
Traffic.
Okay.
Traffic was
Yes,
horrible.
Traffic
this
is
morning.
there.
But we can start.
Yeah, why don't you come on up, Kelly Doyle, Assistant Town Attorney, and
Yeah, it's a
Oh,
lot.
it's Kristen.
Oh,
Kristen Doulos from Parks and Recreation.
Good morning,
Hello.
everyone.
oh, yeah.
Nice. Oh, great.
See it, everyone can see what we're talking about.
It was Kristen that first brought this to our attention in May with an email letting us know about the plight of the horseshoe crab. And then some of us went and saw for ourselves, and then we got Aram involved.
Yeah, so I don't know if you want to give it. So the FIMP plan has been going on for what 60 years. So a few years ago, I was brought into some preliminary plans for. This is part of Contract 3, the Tiana Bayside facility. And
Which
during
is part of Contract 3 of the film.
Yes. And so at that time, we did have some concerns as to whether continuing to keep the Gabion system that's been in place since about 2005 was the best path forward, given that it's now in deteriorated condition and has exposed wire baskets that are sharp and rusty, and it makes it difficult for us to run the various recreational programs we have down there, which include Cornell Cooperative Extension, who we have a partnership and have a maritime educational center down there. They run camps and oyster gardening. So the oyster gardening cages are located off the floating docks, and people have to get over those gabions to access those. So we were even talking about trying to limit the program because it was difficult for people to access. We also run sailing on the western side of the property. We run swimming on the eastern side of the property. We run nipper guard with about 60 kids in the little sandy area that's left where gabions aren't exposed. So there's a lot of things that go on there. It's a robust facility, and we would hate to use to not be able to continue those uses.
Can you tell us about when it was put in? I mean, I know it was a long time ago. You said 2005, but what was the thinking at the time? What was the purpose of it?
There had been a bulkhead there, and I think at the time the way everything was going was to remove the hardened structures from shorelines. And so this was meant to be in place of that to provide shore stabilization. But one other really important thing I want to mention, and hi Aaron,
Hello, Aaron. Thank
is
you.
that the horseshoe crabs, it is a major spot for them to spawn in the spring, and thousands, maybe tens of thousands of them have been getting trapped landward of the gabions, and they can't get back out until another high tide comes in, and sometimes it's not high enough to even carry them over. So there were volunteers, as there have been for the last few years. I think the tides have increased somewhat over the years. Have to then relocate hundreds of them back into the water, and also some get trapped under the decking in the facility, and some perish. So that's another major reasoning for why we're looking for an alternative to this gabion system, which I'm sure Aaron has more to talk about with that, so I don't want to get too much into that. But that's just like a little background on it.
Mhm. All right, that's good to know the
Just for the
background.
public edification, gabion system, right?
So
That's riprap wrapped in a wire mesh.
It's like
that's
a
now-
wire, well, I'm sure Aaron can explain, a wired cage, sort of, and they put rocks inside of it to try to prevent erosion. And there should be, there's supposed to be, the idea is to have it buried under the sand, but they become exposed, and every time sand gets put back, it ends up washing away, and they become exposed again.
And forgive me, are there crabs? There's crabs like inside
Horseshoe
or horseshoe crabs?
Well,
They get
they
trapped.
get trapped, right?
Yeah, because it's,
Because it
Water
forms
carries
a
over.
barrier.
Yeah.
There's some photos in there you
That's
can
what it's
see.
there.
Years
Yeah.
ago,
The water, they kind of swim
Yeah,
probably
it's
over them
Yeah.
at high tide, and then they
Float
get
over
stuck
the
in low
top
tide.
of it, and
Yep.
then they land
Yeah.
on the sand, and then
Michael,
Sometimes their
Flies
tails
out.
get caught in it too.
years ago, they thought this is the way to do, put the rocks inside a cage.
Yeah.
But today it's not the thing to do.
Yeah, yeah.
It was good for like 2 years.
We've become more
When you realize
knowledgeable on
it,
this.
yes.
Yeah.
And so for the FIMP project, what they, the Army Corps had proposed was to just cover the gabions in sand and place actually a lot of sand in this area, and that would potentially interfere. There are some eelgrass restoration areas you can see on here, and
Oh, when did the Army Corps recommend that? Is that recently?
Yeah, it's part of the overall FIP plan. These are called coastal processes features. They call them CPFs. It's a little confusing, just what we know to be a CPF. And so this has been on the books with them for a number of years. The town has continually raised concerns about the Corps' desires here. And so they've held off on finalizing anything until they got feedback from us.
So they wanted us to just keep adding sand to bury the gabion.
And also sand that would have interfered with the dockage, and it just the plan that they proposed was, I think, without the knowledge of the way that the town and the environment uses that space.
Are they aware that the crabs are getting trapped in there?
They are now. They weren't before.
Got it.
And these are horseshoe crabs,
Yeah.
yes.
which is
Because it's just dangerous to begin with.
And there's actually, right now, there's a legislation pending, waiting for the governor's signature to protect horseshoe crabs from any kind of fishing.
Yeah, but right now it's unlimited harvest.
Right, and
Which means that literally they fill up boats with them.
Right.
and the surrounding states, Connecticut, New Jersey, have already
Mhm.
instituted legislation so that protects it
In
from
fact, I think
doing
there's a
that.
quota.
We're the only state in
Is
the
it?
area that's still
Yeah,
doing
there's
that.
a quota.
It's during certain dates too, but yeah, it's a little disheartening. You're putting those horseshoe crabs back, and then people are just harvesting.
Yeah, that was
There's a
disappointing.
quota.
Yeah. We were, that day we were there with the supervisor, right? There's a guy
I mean, I'm
sitting
wondering if
right
they have-
outside the coast.
You're trying to save them, and then there's a boat out there waiting for them to
To
float
be-
back
yeah,
out. And,
Be caught.
very
I'm wondering if they
disappointing.
have that knowledge. Wouldn't that prompt some sort of action?
They do, and I know that Marty had actually written a letter to them. I want to say it was maybe about
It's
3 or 4
Included in
years
your
ago.
packet, yeah.
June of 2022.
Yeah.
June 16th.
Okay, yes, 2022.
Ah.
Bringing it to their attention. That was probably the first year where we started really seeing that
That's
issue with the horseshoe crabs, where it was to that level. And it's just continued to be that way over the course of the past 3 years.
So, yeah, so the Corps, what they said was, well, listen, if you don't like our plan, give us an alternative.
Okay.
And so, we did a site inspection, it was like a few months ago,
Some months ago. Beginning of December.
beginning of summer. It was a very nice day.
Get sunburn.
Yes.
Well, it was really valuable for me because we had so many different stakeholders there. The parks people, the Cornell Cooperative Extension, who's heavily involved in the oyster farming, as well as, the town supervisor. And we're able to really become more knowledgeable about the various activities that were taking place that needed to be not just safeguarded, but enhanced going forward. And so, pardon me, I'm getting over a 3-day cold. So what I did was, in the packet you have, I looked at what's called a living shoreline, which is, at the present time, is the preferred way that the state likes to handle erosion situations. And Councilman Pell knows this has been before the Town Trustees Board as well. Various projects in Mauritius Bay, also in the Sag Harbor area. And the object is to find the appropriate balance of gray and green to create a stable shoreline that's sustainable over time and doesn't end up with situations like what we're dealing with now, which is basically the legacy of an old technology. And so the gray in these cases are things like rock and sand, and the green are things like vegetation. And so I've included in your package a project that we did over the last several years in Mauritius Bay, where we've incorporated offshore breakwaters, spartina planting, and onshore dunes and rock revetments cored in the dune. Oh, thanks.
What service you get here?
It's wonderful.
Where are you looking?
So if you go all the way to the back, well, actually, right there, on that page you're at, right there. That's the project we did. So that's what it looked like when we started. Yeah. Is that page numbers?
I think the next page is maybe
Yeah, and so that area is very, very eroded. And then you can see this is houses from 612 to 628 Dune Road in West Hampton. And then if you go to, there's a before and after, it looks like this. And so you can see that what we did was create a series of offshore breakwaters that created these very stable sandy embayments behind them. And the reason that
Are you talking about the rock, like the buildup of the rocks there?
Yeah, see
Yeah.
little crenulate shapes
Which
right
are-
here?
Yeah.
Little crescent beaches.
Uh-huh.
So it creates a very stable crescent beach like that, which is really ideal for horseshoe crabs, for shorebirds, and for
Other wildlife.
other wildlife, but vegetation as well.
What is that?
well hydrated.
What is that, because there's breaks in them? Is
Yeah.
that why?
So what it does, it creates a still area behind there, and the gap between each one of them is calculated in order to provide a log spiral beach behind it that's stable over
You want
time.
you want the water to come over this. You want the water to come up and flood this.
Yeah.
It's very important to get the right angle on this. 'Cause if you have the wrong angle, you get a backlash when the water hits it. So you want the water to roll right over this, slow it down.
And it's been successful?
So how are those rocks held in place?
By gravity, they're
By
big.
gravity.
You don't need the
Don't need the
cage, the
cages.
metal
They
cage?
probably weigh
They
like
key into one another.
500 pounds.
500 pounds. Yeah.
Oh, not like the ones there
No.
now, that.
And the jetty keys into one another.
More,
This is
yeah,
what
they're
this
fitted.
is.
They're fitted.
Yeah.
And if you
Gravity
look
would
at this after photo, you can see, that's what it.
Why wasn't something like this done at North Sea Beach?
Because the sand nourishment is more effective there.
Okay.
because we have such a ready source of sand.
The Olivine in North Sea? Is that what
Well,
you're talking
the Olivine was only about 5% of that overall project.
So if the horseshoe crabs don't know to go in the gaps, to
Well,
get
it's
back in the
interesting
water.
because
They'll
we
find a
have
way.
a lot of horseshoe crabs here. They love it.
Yeah.
They come in the gaps, they burrow right in, lay their eggs, and go out with the next tide. And because it's just, we've, I don't know, this is our third season that we're monitoring this project. And we've, this is an area that was eroding so fast, horseshoe crabs couldn't nest here because as soon as they nested and laid their eggs, the next storm just washed everything away. And so we have, I don't know, I wouldn't say 100, but dozens of horseshoe crabs. And the other thing is that the rocks themselves are like English muffins. They have tons of nooks and crannies. And so you get this encrusting algae, which brings in the small bait fish, which brings in the crabs and everything else. So it's really creates this
You might get oysters to set on it too.
You can get oysters. Yeah, we threw a few dozen oysters in there. We'll see if they're going to take hold.
And what are the effects on the bay side of the hardened structures?
On the base
is the
of
sand
yeah.
staying or is it getting washed out?
No,
because
that-
hardened structures.
what you see here is stable. This photo was taken 2 years ago. If you go down there today, it looks just like that.
They did have problems over the years, but they keep on correcting the problems. It's like a learning as they go along with it.
One of the issues we
I
had.
can see the houses and the problems. that-
Well, yeah,
No, I
they,
mean, when they built this, they had the wrong angle and had to move stuff.
right.
And-
Well,
And
one of the
come
things
back redoing this.
Right, the scour.
One of the things that we learned was we have to do 2 or 3 years of vegetative planting to get it to take hold. So
Yeah.
this year, we're actually got Spartina.
That's good.
So
How long do you project them, these buffers, natural buffers, to last?
Oh, these have like a 50-year life.
That's great.
So this is Spartina alterniflora that's on this. I'm on page. I'm looking at the house.
Yeah. No,
Or is that dune
that's
grass?
beach grass.
Yeah.
In on the right, but there is Spartina in the crescent itself. If you look closely, you'll see we planted in there. And these photos are, as I said, they're a couple of years old. But also, we worked on this
Very
project for Suffolk County at Indian Island. And if you may not remember, but at the end of Circle Drive, there was a bluff that was continuously eroded, and it's actually an indigenous burial ground. And after one storm, there were artifacts sticking out of the bluff.
Really?
So the county came and was in search of a solution to solve that. And you can see on these two, this was just constructed in the last 12 months. And you can go out there and take a look. It's doing really, really well.
Wow.
The Peconic Estuary Partnership had a tour and
Oh,
out
yeah?
on their boat and showed us all that particular project. That's a pretty significant jetty out on that point.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But what's really neat about it now, there was zero public access there before because it was just a vertical 12-foot drop and a fence. So you couldn't even get down there. Now they have a really nice walkway down, and I mean, it's really nice. You could put a house on it. It's so big. Or a cabin.
Does it make sense to include the work here into the Threatened and Endangered Species Program with the trustees, or is it? I mean, I know that they have that program. Because it is, the obviously the crabs.
Horseshoe crabs aren't a threatened or endangered species.
But are there other species that could?
Well,
be
it's a potential
identified?
feeding ground
For
that.
the knot, for the
The
red
red
knot.
knot and and potentially the piping plover as well.
Yeah,
Oh,
more
wow.
like red knots, because the red knots actually go after the horseshoe crab
They
eggs.
do. They like the eggs.
Okay.
So the horseshoe crabs, what I thought was happening was that they couldn't get back in until the tide came up because
Get
they were
caught.
getting stuck.
Right.
So now with this, they wouldn't have to wait for the tide to come in. They can
They go
easily,
They go right in through the gap and
Cross.
right out through the gap.
or over the, they wouldn't be able to go
No,
over
they
the rocks.
don't really go over.
They will find, they'll keep on going, they hit this and go.
Yeah,
They'll find it.
I have video of the horseshoe crabs. They come in, they bump up against the rocks, and then they feel their way around until they get to the sand, and then they just dig in,
Yeah.
do their thing, and take off.
Aaron, what makes certain places better candidates for breakwaters versus sand renourishment?
A couple of things. Number one is the availability of sand. So if you don't have a ready source of, economically viable sand, you've got a problem because you need to hold on to all the sand you have. The other thing is the type of shoreline. Is it an open shoreline or is it compartmentalized? And the other part is the length of the shoreline. So for example, if you're on the Atlantic Ocean, you need a mile of beach to build a project. But if you're on the Shinnecock Bay, or you can do it with a few thousand feet. But again, if you don't have a ready source of sand where you can come back in every year and place that sand, because you have to do it on the bay, you really have to do it every year because you can't build a big enough beach.
Is it the wave action there?
And it's the wave action, and in
The
this,
tide, the wave, the weather.
which really works on this site is that the entire thing is compartmentalized. You have a groin on the west end and a solid fill dock on the east end, and it just creates a really nice compartment. And by putting the sand in, by adding the sand as part of the project, you create the stable system.
Right.
And it's locked in on both sides, so you don't have leakage going out either end. Because end losses are what really hurt a project.
So this is what you're proposing.
Yeah, that's what we're proposing.
How's that affect the dock that's there right now for the boats to pull up to?
No impact. You can see the dock, all the breakwaters are landward of the dock. And so the dock is still completely serviceable. And the two recreational areas for sailing and swimming are also, would remain accessible.
And where are those on this picture?
They're in the beginning.
Is there any grant funding available for this? Any help?
Well, I think we're gonna,
Financially?
I forwarded these plans to the Army Corps and said.
You do this?
Yeah.
Because
You do this now?
Right,
That's the goal.
So that's the funding source.
Okay, I like it.
CPF water quality funds could potentially be used to maybe in the future if there's ongoing maintenance involved. I know Cornell is a willing partner there as well in,
Like
doing
planting,
anything in terms
planting,
of planting the living shoreline. They also grow some of their own native grasses at the location.
yeah, just removing those and putting this in just seems like a very labor-intensive, costly process, and
Yeah, that's
Oh, it
why
is.
we want to try to get it into the FIM
But
project.
the beauty here is that under the FIP project, they're obligated in their design to create these coastal process features. Well, the object is to mimic nature, and so they were doing it with all just sand. We're going to put in a whole bunch of sand, and that's going to be natural. So, this accomplishes the same goal, just with a different mix of materials. And what's really I think important to us are a couple of things. Number one, this really services the people and the resources that are using the area. It's not just respectful; it's enhancing to that.
Yeah.
The second part is that last year the legislature passed and the governor signed a law that said on every project that's reviewed in the state, you have to first do an analysis of whether or not a living shoreline is going to work. And so the feds are obligated through the Coastal Zone Management Act of 1972 to adhere to these New York State policies. And I think that the Army Corps is looking for a solution. They're not. I don't think that they're in a situation where they're like, "This is what you're gonna get." I think they're saying, "How can you help us fulfill our mission?"
But obviously, sometimes these projects do take time. So I think it would also be beneficial, and I'm happy to hear some recommendations, other recommendations, but to also gain maybe a letter of support from also the county of this particular project, especially as it pertains to FEMP's implementation of it.
The state would be our better partner on that
Okay.
because the state is the partner with FEMP.
Okay.
The county is not, and
Not-
not involved in
Not
all
on this project. They were in the fire island.
Yeah, they're in Fire Island, but not in the second.
Okay.
yeah.
Aaron,
it's-
is this configuration considered a living shoreline?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm seeing, the 12 small lagoons, and and it looks like rock, riprap. That's a construction. How do horseshoe crabs nest in this?
Well, behind the breakwaters, that lighter color is all sand.
So they can make it over the rock.
No, and they go in the
They
openings.
come through the
Through the
holes.
gap. So when you look at living
No,
shorelines,
I
it's
get
a
that, but
continuum.
on the shore side of this, I'm seeing a hard structure. So I need a little bit more on
This
how
is all
this is
sand right here.
a living coastline.
It looks like rock,
It-
as you're
yeah.
saying it's sand
Is-
Yeah, it's all
on the
sand.
last page.
This, behind the shore parallel breakwaters, well, behind there is all sand.
The white is sand.
Where it says, I'm on the last page
Yep.
here, and where it says new shoreline, that's not rock, that's sand. Okay.
Well, everything.
It does look like it
It's-
could be
I
rock.
could,
does-
I could make it a little brown.
No, that's okay.
I was wondering
Just-
how you're doing the sailboats off
Well,
the-
right, that too.
I
and-
have to, yeah,
Okay.
I have to talk. to
Yeah,
them
I have a
about
question
that.
for you.
And
I mean, this is,
Um,
All right.
You have these, I know this is not the final drawing.
Right.
Are you gonna do it straight across, or you're gonna zigzag, put curves? Because if all these are straight across,
Mhm.
then you're gonna get the backlash when the wave hits it.
Well,
Like how you did the other ones, you gotta stagger.
what we're gonna do is, we're gonna do what we're gonna do is we're gonna ask the Army Corps to do a numerical model.
Yeah.
And come up with the optimal design. Because a project like this, you want to numerically model it.
Yeah.
Because you know, it's, and they would, that's their standard operating procedure.
Because they usually curve them or.
There's a lot of different orientations that will all depend upon the wave model.
Would there be a spot for oyster gardening to still
Yeah.
take place?
Yeah.
Where do you want us to? Well, I guess the floating dock would still be off the breakwater.
Right.
Um, so I guess in between.
Well, yep, we have to look at that in a little more detail. There's a mathematical relationship between the gap opening and then the distance to the crescent. And so you want to maintain that, and what that may involve is pushing the floating dock offshore a little bit farther. But there's plenty of deep water there.
You have to see what the wave action is gonna be. If it's curved, the stones are curved all off the thing, but if it's straight like this, you're gonna have a lot of backlash from the waves and hit it, they're gonna go back. So you have to, then you have to be careful where you put your float. You know?
on the easternmost side of this project, right, I'm assuming those are either existing or new bulkheads?
Everything's existing on the east side.
Okay. So the bulkhead all the way to the east of the parcel is in place and it has not scoured. All right, that would not be a new structure.
Correct.
it's just kind of sad, 'cause I remember going here for guppies when I was a kid. And there was this big beach, and you just walk right in, and now it's all,
But it was bulkheaded at that time.
it was.
Well, I don't have any issues with this. It looks great to me, and I think
Same.
drawings work actually. But I thought that people thought that they were against hardened structures, that there's some theory that you're not supposed to put those in. I mean, I think they work, but is that true that?
Well, everything done incorrectly is bad. if it's done, properly with good engineering and good science, it works really, really well. And that's, that there was a lot of backlash about hard structures and groins after what happened in West Hampton. Let's face it, and that literally went nationwide.
But then they actually work when the cells filled in.
There were mistakes were made and mistakes were corrected. But this is right from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and this is don't say no. Don't prohibit something that may be useful when used in the proper manner. And so that's why it's so important to look at the proper mix of gray and green, to do the numerical modeling, to talk to the stakeholders, to make sure that you're addressing the concerns, about how the shoreline's going to be used in the future. So I think that this is obviously extremely preliminary, but I think it has the right elements.
And the determining factors to install what you're proposing, the breakwater, as opposed to edging or vegetation only, what are the variables there?
The big
I mean, I know
variable
we
here
kind of
is-
listed them earlier. It's wind, it's pitch, it's tides, it's,
Yeah. Well, here
But-
it's all fetch, so it's all wind over water. So if you have more than a mile of fetch, you can't use vegetation alone. It's unstable.
It's too much power
It's
behind
too
it.
much power behind the wave. A wave is.
so with Shinnecock Bay with no break in the wind, and then it hits
Yeah.
this
You have a-
shoreline, you're
you have a
saying that
multi-
the energy is too powerful
yeah, on
just
a-
to put in a vegetation-only system at this time, because it'll just get washed out.
Were you saying what's that calculus, that formula, if it's over what?
If it's over a mile of distance over water that the wind blows, then vegetation's unstable
It can be shorter of a mile too if it's deeper.
if it's deeper.
Aaron, something I'd ask that you could potentially come back on, obviously you're not prepared to speak about it today, but we have a real issue with, we're losing Ponquag Beach. The bowl is completely decimated again, and, this is usually when we're putting sand back, and I don't think we're in a good place for going into the winter.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I apologize, I haven't been down there because I spent sunny days in bed. Here's, Ponquag itself I think will be fine. So we might have lost a little bit of beach, but the dune there is very, very deep. So I'm not really concerned about that, but the bowl I am, because that's a chronic loss area. And the thing to do with that is that you as the local leader, you have to be proactive with the Army Corps, because the Army Corps is always reactive. And the key thing with the Army Corps is what they call Public Law 8499, and that is the Army Corps' equivalent of FEMA. So that is the authority that allows them to come in and repair a federally constructed project that is below specification due to a particular storm event. So there has to, in order for that to happen, there has to be a quote extraordinary storm, which is really nebulously defined. And then there has to be a proof that the project is actually below the design level. And that's typically done by taking shore perpendicular profiles by surveyors, that show that it's supposed to be this big and it's this big.
Yeah.
And then that gets presented through the state to the Army Corps and say, hey, your project is below spec and you need to come fix it.
Because we have drone photos right now, and it's.
Photos are no good.
I know, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you can see with the naked eye that
Oh, yeah.
it's, we're there, and, we're putting millions of dollars into the Shinnecock fishing fleet. And is it a viable location anymore if they're not going to make this a long-term solution?
Well, it is a long-term solution because they have the federal authority to act, but, and it's not a new construction, it's operation and maintenance. The key is that you just have to stay on top of the Army Corps all the time.
So for us then, because we don't have that expertise obviously on staff, what would that look like for us to make sure we're not, sitting there waiting for it to break through and we're getting to that point before we're basically engaging with them. So
Meeting with the county.
we were at that
That's
point.
actually
Yeah.
county
Yeah.
topic too.
We actually plugged
I
it.
was on that email string with Bill Hillman,
Mhm.
who's really good.
Yeah, feels good.
And they have a survey team, or they can contract through a county annual contract to get a survey team out there to run these profiles, which will demonstrate that we're below.
So it's just us notifying them pretty much?
Well, partnering.
Yeah.
And Aaron, as far as the bowl is concerned, the reason why that problem exists is because of the Army Corps of Engineers construction of the Shinnecock Inlet back in the 1930s, once it cut through.
Local in the 30s, state in the 60s, and or local in the 40s, state in the 60s, and feds in the 90s.
There we go.
But,
Okay, so it's blocking sand from lateral
Yeah.
drift, and I mean, because they are now part of that commitment, we need a sand pass through.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
Yeah,
that's-
it's going to be really, really hard to get. So when you do sand bypass, there's two methods of sand bypass. One is called a fixed plant, which is exactly what it sounds like. So on one side of the inlet, there's a plant, and it pumps sand to the other side of the inlet. They've been trying to get that for decades. It's not going to happen. The county kiboshed the last one by.
Very expensive.
It's very expensive, but they declared alienation of parkland. So there was no place to put the physical plant because that's all county park. So the second solution is what they call floating bypass, which means you bring a dredge and you pump the sand around.
Yeah.
The problem with that is you've got to get appropriations all the time. Even though it's O&M, you've got to be on the list.
And compounding this is the jetting effect that actually sucks the sand back into the Shinnecock
The other
Bay with
thing
the
is you can
tides.
actually do living shoreline stuff there.
Well, I mean, why don't we talk about it, if not today, then another
Yeah.
time, because we do need a long-term solution. We can't just keep pumping sand there
Yeah,
and spending all
yeah.
this money. It's a,
Within the last 5 or 6 years,
Not
they
sustainable.
did
We're
two
not-
huge
we're not
projects in that
spending
area.
it,
Just in the last 5 years, they did
Well, yeah,
hundreds
we're-
of
well,
thousands of cubic yards of sand in that area.
We're spending part of it because it's all our money, but the point is, I think that's everybody at the table recognizes there's got to be a better way.
Yeah, right.
And there is.
Well, I just feel like we're just always behind, you know?
Well, and, yeah,
Looks like a
we're always
washing
behind. The
machine.
other thing is that
Just
you know
churns
when the
everything.
damage does come, we take it in the teeth.
Well, yeah, us and the businesses.
So-
over there.
Right.
so you have some ideas on what's the better way?
Yeah.
I mean, because
All
I think
right,
they
so
would
why don't
be,
we regroup?
because I think they would be, you know, just to protect the fleet. I mean, it's commerce.
It's got the
Because
second
if you-
largest fishing fleet in the state.
No, not anymore.
Not anymore?
Montauk is.
Well, we're the second, right?
Yeah, the second. Because if we lose the Shinnecock fleet, the interstate and commerce, and there goes your federal money. Because that's how we got the originally dredging from
That's how we got it.
85.
Exactly
Well,
right.
First time it was dredged. Because the boats are built down south, and it's a whole history on that.
So
So
the
what's the
next
next
step
step
with,
on
with this
this?
is, well, I've sent this out to the Army Corps.
You
I'm
did
waiting to
already?
get their feedback. What I'd like to report to them is that I've spoken to this board, and this board is generally supportive of the concept, and they'd like the Army Corps to investigate.
Sounds good to me.
Yes. Looks like a nice project. Do the same in the boat.
So what do you think is going to happen? I mean, are they?
It's gonna
how-
take
how
them
do we get
years
to
to
do-
do
Yeah,
this.
but, so, okay, so we don't want to wait years.
So, so what we want to do as an interim?
Yeah.
Now, I would have to circle back with the trustees, but they got some money to do dredging in the intercoastal, or I guess the Army Corps is gonna be
Yeah.
dredging the intercoastal maybe this fall, winter.
They can pump the
And-
sand up there.
We had requested that they put the sand on the gabions. Scott was involved with that, and he was supportive of it. I don't know how effective that will be. We know it washes out relatively quickly.
If it buys us a couple of years,
Maybe it
it's
would
well
buy
done.
us even a year, you know. I feel like anything would be better than nothing.
Yeah.
But the only thing I don't like is that when the sand washes out, it comes around the other side of the pier and fills in our swim area.
But we
then
can
has to get
recycle that
dredged.
Could we,
On
when
the
we,
east
when,
side.
when
On the
you,
east side,
That's
yes.
what I was asking about with the, okay.
when you reach out to
Yeah.
But that's
the
stable.
Army Corps asking,
Not stable.
well, letting them know that we are
Hold on.
generally supportive
I'll
of
let
this
him talk. and then
project,
I'll-
are you able to, you know, get some sort of timeline that they would expect it to go? I know that you're saying a couple of years, but is there any more of a concrete timeline that they might be able to provide, just to give us some understanding of what they expect and how we may want to engage with the state to, you know, sort of, you know, escalate this to something more important environmentally? Because I think anything is
The answer
possible.
is yes, but that's gonna take months to get that answer.
Mm-hmm.
As council will tell you, getting an answer out of the Army Corps is an adventure.
Is contract 3 tied to the easement agreements?
Yes.
Is that, oh, okay.
Yeah, this doesn't require,
This
obviously,
would
an
have been
easement. but-
contract 2, but because of the concerns that we had, they took it out of contract 2.
Yeah, my understanding is they're focusing really on
This was
all the ocean projects now, and then, you know, the Bayside projects are gonna be the next, you know, after we get
So
this
it's originally
done.
supposed to be fall 2025, but,
Mhm.
you know, I'm sure add
Yeah.
time onto that, which that's already a year away anyway, so.
It all depends
You're
on,
looking
a
at
lot of
maybe-
it depends on the availability of the dredging, right, the Great Lakes. There's only a handful of dredging companies out there, and sometimes they get pulled to a storm in North Carolina or someplace else.
What would
So-
you say the cost would be, and would it be feasible for us to do it with the promise of reimbursement from the Army Corps? Is
That's
that
my
something
question.
that's ever been
I wouldn't do
arranged?
that. I would only do that if the Army Corps didn't want to participate in the project. I think my advice is what Kristen was talking about, which is getting some sand from the intercoastal dredging, covering this over temporarily. It's a natural solution. Whatever sand does get around the end, we can recycle it back and let the Army Corps chew on this and do their engineering. They're good engineers, they just take a lot of time. And if they come back and they say, no, we're totally not interested, okay, then let's look at, what it would look like in-house to do something like this.
What you just described was 4 years.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, maybe 3.
But the other thing is, this qualifies under state law for a 50% matching grant. Just like East Hampton got for ditch planes.
Mm-hmm.
It's under the same law. You can get 50% of whatever the project cost is.
We can apply for 50.
Yeah, we can apply.
Yeah.
If you're
Right.
eligible.
Right.
Okay.
And we would.
From New York State,
Yeah.
you're saying?
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. We'll be in touch.
Very interesting.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
I'll write to
Forgive
you
me if I
about
don't
coming
shake your
back.
hand.
Yeah, no,
There's
Feel better by Saturday, will you?
this is better.
Oh, yeah. You can sit next to Kelly.
Yeah, do another pimp thing.
Yeah, right. They'll have an open tent.
Oh, you're doing another one as well?
We are at the same place.
It's gonna be like a year later, and they're gonna be like, "You're done
I know.
nothing."
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it's supposed to be a smaller crowd. They're saying it's actually part of like the ECD meeting. We're having a meeting on Saturday morning now. Kelly and I and Aaron meeting with some of the residents over there.
About the easements?
Yep, just the status of kind of an update about what's happening there. I think it's part of the Tiana Beach ECD. They have their ECD meeting, so it's part of that.
Oh, good. And Tom?
He's probably watching the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
He's outside. Some go by. Oh, thank you.
Is it done?
It's mint.
Thank you.
Mint.
No, thank you.
Okay, next thing on our agenda is an update on the Head Start Senior Building, and we've got John Ortiz, Deputy Supervisor, and Tom Houghton, Director of Municipal Works.
Good morning.
Thank you, gentlemen.
So in late July, we got a call, our office got a call from Tom regarding the condition of the Head Start building as the workers were doing the demo of the front facade of the building in order to install the CME museum. Why don't you take it from there, Tom, what you found?
So the initial work was to demolish the bathrooms, the exterior wall for the expansion. They demolished the bathrooms. We found some rotting plywood on the floor, which is not untypical next to a toilet flange. Sometimes they leak. So that brought our suspicions up a little bit. And then when we started demolishing the exterior wall, they started removing sheetrock. We encountered rusted steel studs. So the type of construction that this building is modular construction. So it's a steel superstructure for each unit that was brought to the site. And then the walls, which are independent of the actual structure itself, think of a steel box, just square sections drawn between them. The walls are steel stud, and there's sheetrock attached to steel stud, and that makes up the section.
How many sections are there?
I don't know how many sections the place was built out of.
Okay.
I imagine between 9 and 10 sections. It's about 9,200 square feet, so quite a large building.
Mhm.
Every part of that building is modular, even the larger front section with the A-frame or pitched roof. So they started disassembling the wall, and we encountered a wall that was essentially floating. It was being held up by the sheetrock. The lower track, steel track that the studs sit in, was completely disintegrated, gone, rusted out, and then probably about 18 or there's a good 3 inches of separation between the bottom of what was left of the studs and the steel track. Just air. If you could push on the wall was moving back and forth like a bellows. Like it was.
Wow.
It was held up by the sheetrock in that specific section. The inside of the building had 2 layers of sheetrock, probably for fire rating. The outside had a layer of sheetrock, so it was strong but not structural, right? So we encountered that on the 19th, and then from there we wanted to figure out if this issue was related to that courtyard area or if this was going to be found throughout the rest of the building. So building maintenance staff came in. We went to classrooms. We went to 3 different classrooms and a portion of the office space. We cut 2x2 patches into the exterior wall sections to try and replicate. Like, we didn't want to blow open the entire wall in case it wasn't going to be found, and then we have to repair that. But we wanted to expose a couple studs, and the studs that we did expose were rusted. Some of them were separated, some of them were just had corrosion on them. So that showed us that, you know, this specific condition was likely to happen to every stud around the building, just dependent upon what stage it was at in its deterioration. We then pulled the original plan section from the building, and it was a concrete foundation with concrete block up to the bottom of the steel stud.
Can I see that for a second, please?
Do we have to stamp it in?
No.
Okay, there, go ahead.
I'll get it back, I promise.
You're saying the foundation?
Yeah. So the top of the footing was below grade, the way it was designed. So you've got your footing, you've got grade, and then you had concrete block that made its way up and sat on steel. There was on the exterior wall, there was a brick facade, there was a tar paper rain screen. All of that was immediately in contact with the ground, with the subsurface, with the soil, right? Moisture-laden soil.
So that's unusual
Yeah.
construction.
Typically, on your house, on any type of building, your concrete foundation protrudes above grade, right? And then that's coated with asphalt or tar or something like that, a waterproof membrane, and that's what keeps the moisture in the ground out of your building, right? And then your sill plate sits on top of that, and you build your house on top of the foundation so that your house itself isn't in touch with the ground. In this case, the ground was immediately in touch with the perimeter of the building.
And the sill plate was below grade.
Yeah, there was no sill plate in this instance, but what would be the sill plate was at or below grade.
Basically, it sat inside the foundation of the building.
The ground came up is essentially what you're saying.
No, not at all. It was designed so that the ground was higher than the foundation.
Right.
The ground was always
Around-
this height.
Yeah, it raised above the perimeter of the concrete.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So you have this dry building, conditioned building that's going to have a humidity between 40 and 50%. It's going to kind of suck the moisture out of the ground around it.
Right.
If you're interested.
Thank you.
As a result, it's probably been rusting since it went in.
Can you
that
go
was
into-
about 30 years ago?
Yeah, 1991 was when it was constructed.
Can you go into the project that we were actually doing? This was
Yes.
something that we've been working
So-
on for years.
When we encountered this, we were in the midst of constructing an expansion of the front area of the building. So previously, the Children's Museum of the East End occupied the front classroom per se.
I'm sorry. Can
yes.
I just pause you for 1 second? So we had knowledge of the inadequacies of the infrastructure for a while, or
I didn't know until I read it in Riverhead Local.
no?
How would
I'm
we have
talking
known
about.
that?
I'm talking about the just the construction. Did we have knowledge of the infrastructure itself not being adequate before this investigation took place in
Before
July?
the construction.
Did we know about the inadequacies of the infrastructure, the layout, the fact that the ground didn't have the type of proper
We had nothing to suspect that it compromised the
Okay,
building.
okay.
If that's
Yep,
what you're
yep.
asking.
Probably was never checked.
Wasn't until you opened it up.
Correct.
It wasn't until
Yeah.
just this July.
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't know that anybody's looked at these plans since 1991.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
yeah, no, we didn't know about it. That's what you're asking. So we were expanding the CME space. We were providing an educational area for them, tall ceilings, wide open, a place to do arts and crafts and science projects and all that. It was basically infilling the courtyard area, and then we were creating a new entry for the Head Start building as well as part of that. We received grant funding to do it. We went out to bid. We had a full capital project. The contractor started the initial demolition, and then we encountered this. And after seeing what we saw, we immediately put the brakes on the contractor to limit any further payments to them. We didn't want them to get any further into the project because it didn't look like this project was going to be able to proceed based on the condition of the remainder of the building.
So what did you think of after you got really into looking in the different areas of the walls? I mean, is there any way to salvage any part of the building?
So the replacement of the steel studs itself, you can do. It's extremely labor intensive. It's removing the interior sheetrock. It's removing all the electrical. It's removing the exterior facade. You're basically deconstructing the perimeter of this building. Like, you're removing the windows, the doors. The doors and windows are supported by the steel studs. Like, you could replace those. But the height of the foundation and the foundation condition, this is just going to happen again. In order to completely address this and be really on the safe side, you're either talking about lowering the grade around the building 18 to 24 inches, and then trying to slope that further away from the building so that water doesn't collect, or you're talking about raising this modular building up so that you can now extend the concrete footing around the building so that only that portion is in touch with grade. There's a combination of the two, but if you're going to raise it, you might as well raise it all the way. There's really no cost savings of raising it 6 inches versus 12 inches. That combined with the replacement of steel studs would save this building, but we're talking about a 30-year-old modular building that's essentially completely compromised around the perimeter. And we still don't know if the actual substructure of each modular unit has been compromised or not. We're not able to take a look at the exterior of those beams. Those beams might be rusted just like the studs, and I kind of expect they are. It's just to what extent are they? They're thicker metal, so they're going to take much longer to become compromised, but they're also in contact with.
And we're talking about a building that has 88 children in it.
Yes.
So.
And it also acts as the commercial kitchen. It acts as the kitchen for Head Start. They operate to serve, I believe they told us, 2 other facilities
Right.
to feed
It serves the children at that facility, at the Head Start facility, less than a few miles away in Riverhead, and also children and or seniors to a much smaller extent at the Bridgehampton location. So the long story short is that by the engineer's assessment, what it would take to rebuild this building or to renovate it so that it was habitable, that it was serviceable in the manner in which it's been used for the past 33 years was just financially untenable. So that being said, we got in touch with the Head Start personnel, their program directors by late July, and we've been in contact with them that this building will be no longer serviceable and made available to them.
You contacted them as soon as you found out.
Yes, we have.
What was the date you contacted them?
The first week, I want to say August 1 or 2. It was right in there.
Because I have a problem with this whole thing is that I walked it downstairs and one morning and Nick said something, hey, look at this. It was when he first started to, when he first got a picture. And that's the last time I heard about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have to hear from Cindy on Facebook about this. There's a lack of communication with the whole board. She's not excluded from this. That we were not notified about this ahead of time. And this is the first time I heard about it in work session. It's pretty darn bad.
I mean, I read about it in the paper yesterday.
and that Michael knows nothing about it. So he knows a little bit more than us, but not too much.
Well, I'll say that Tom, when he found out, he came and asked to tell me, and that told me what was happening, and then Tommy John said, as the liaison, he would take the lead and communicate with the Head Start people to make sure that they were fully informed, so they could start looking at what they could do. And he also said he was going to reach out to Fred Thiel, and it looked like we were going to get some support and people from the county. I don't want to speak for him, but I'm sure he's
And I
spoken
did.
to a lot of people.
Yeah, I called over to all the local elected officials to apprise them of this situation.
But you're right.
Except
they
for the
should
ones
have-
that you sit at this table with.
But you're
Well,
right. There
I
should
can't
have been
speak to
a
what
better
you know or
communication.
don't know, and I mean that's what I was doing with this. So it is known to the community, and also Head Start started went out to the community themselves, and that precipitated
I mean,
the
once it
interview
was
with
essentially
the reporter.
confirmed by Tom here that the building would no longer be serviceable, I was able then to contact the Head Start program director, and I even had a video phone call with them on August 6th with the Head Start board to tell them that there was no other buildings that we were able to identify for their use, or even part of the building for their use.
And you were communicating with Frank Zapone, the former.
Yes, who initially
He was the
put us
point
in
person on this
contact with
project.
Annette Harris, the regional program director for Head Start. And those first calls we had, it almost took a week before we were finally able to connect with her and let the messages. But by the first week, early in the first week of August, we were able to do that. I then sat on a Zoom call with the Head Start board to apprise them of the situation, the assessment by our engineer, the lack of any other identifiable buildings in the area to be used. When that Zoom ended, Tommy John was out of pocket. Later on, he then sat in on the Zoom there on August 6th and went from there. In the meantime, Tommy John has followed up with all local politicians to apprise them of what was going on and to see the extent to which any other buildings would be made available. I also reached out to Cheryl Pedicic, the interim superintendent for Riverhead School District, to apprise her of everything, as well as to their Universal Pre-K Special Education Coordinator, Jacqueline Ruggles. She and I most recently spoke yesterday. What we found out almost immediately was that of the 88 children that use this facility, 55 of them are Riverhead School District's Universal Pre-K students, which was interesting. We also found out more about the building. We had Janice Wilson research the resolutions. The building was built in either late 90 or 91. There was a town board resolution rejected in that time frame for the construction cost of 1.5 or 1.6 million, which ultimately led perhaps to the decision to allow for the building to be built and paid for in the modular construction. Since that time, the building has been used exclusively by Head Start pursuant to a $1 a month lease for the past 33 years. That most recent lease ended with the town attorney providing us with a copy of that lease ending June 30, 2024. There is one wrinkle that was brought to my attention this week. Back in December 2023, the town board voted to allow for the building to be renamed in memory of Annie Jackson by her family and by her work in that area, in that community. So by your leave, I can contact that family to let them know any such naming of the building and or plaque would be held in abeyance until such decision as to what this property will be done, not just with the demolition costs, which are anticipated, but also whatever
For the future.
Future will have. Tommy John.
Do-
And I continue to reach out to a number of different people to see what other options there may be, but I can't speak to anything definitive because while everyone's been contacted out to see whatever else can be done, nothing's been held fast that we could communicate it to the Head Start folks.
Well, I guess first, how about our inventory of buildings? Do we have anything, I mean, that the town owns that could possibly house the Head Start program in the short term?
I mean,
I've
I
gone
was
through
thinking about
buildings.
maybe the senior centers, but then I was told that they're too small, it wouldn't
It's too
accommodate
small
all
and
the
it's not an
children.
option.
Tom, they said right now their immediate need is obviously a place to have the students, but also they have to get everything out of there and they need storage space. Why can't we let them move it into the West Hampton Beach building?
That's a possibility. It's up to.
There's plenty of
Board.
room there.
We have, we have,
It's
The whole basement.
We-
oh, it's storage space.
We do
Yeah.
have
Okay.
we do have a 40-foot storage container at the West Hampton building that we could move. We purchased it years ago for storage. We could drop that in the parking lot for them to store anything that they don't have space for, any larger items.
Because I mean, in my mind, this is getting this building back is got to be priority one for us as far as construction and putting things together. I don't see putting a new community center ahead of a space for children. I just
Do
the
we-
Riverside community.
Do we have an understanding of when the next round of programming is set to start?
September 4th.
Okay. There's no way the Flanders Senior Center it can provide some
Not that
optimal
many
space. Are you sure?
They house
Children.
seniors and have a warming kitchen. This has a commercial
This has a
kitchen.
commercial-
The other
kitchen.
question is their
Yeah.
commercial kitchen.
Classroom.
Could we move that kitchen to the West Hampton Beach facility?
What facility are you referring
The
to?
building that we have that's sitting vacant.
112
Old Riverhead
over.
But
Road.
there's no electric or plumbing or
For the
In
right
there.
amount of money, we can do
Or
anything.
HVAC.
Mhm.
I'm just trying to solve an immediate problem with a building that's sitting empty and
There's-
doing nothing for us.
Since majority of the students are from Riverhead, does Riverhead have anything they can use?
I've heard nothing. And apparently, all of the classrooms are overfilling as it was. There was a meeting we had with the Riverhead School District regarding the sewage treatment plant 2-3 weeks ago, or immediately before we found out about this, which is why I had the interim superintendent's name and number. And I called her and spoke to her at length, and she was able to confirm, yeah, she doesn't literally have any other room. And they're well aware of this. Head Start is scrambling. It seems they have a level of difficulty in laying hands on what is available in the community themselves.
They're a big organization, aren't they?
They are and headquartered, federally funded and the like, but in all of my contact with them, which has been considerable, I've seen very little relationship or reaching out between local Head Start and the powers and or money that obviously resides in.
They actually have a building and a piece of property that adjoins the Phillips Avenue Elementary School. Now,
Yes.
the building hasn't been used in many, many, many years. The next stop for that structure is the dumpsters. But they do have a piece of property there that they own. And, so that's something, and any construction, Cindy, I agree with you. I mean, at the best case scenario, I mean, what are we thinking, a year, 2 years?
If you go modular.
For something, right, there's definitely the option of classrooms where
But you're
Very
saying they
pro-
already have their own piece of property?
they do, yeah.
What's
yeah.
the size of this acreage, do you know, of the one that we own?
It's pretty
I can
significant.
find that out for you.
Pretty big.
I do not believe that I'd have to check. I was gonna say whether or not the other piece they have could support a building of this size, but
I think the other piece is an acre and a half that Tommy John's talking about.
Mhm. There are options there, as it was my point, and options that they have. But right now, we are in preliminary, very cursory contact with Suffolk Community College. They do have the Culinary Center
They have the Riverhead
and
campus
the Riverhead
as well,
campus, but
which is in Southampton.
but that
Okay.
their charter is something different, and so that we're essentially trying to work with Head Start to get them housed temporarily.
There is also the kitchen that was just redone at the corner where Homeside Florist was. It's like a community, like it's a flex space where you can go in and you can use it's an industrial kitchen that anybody can come in and use. It's a shared space with the Food Institute.
At Southampton.
It's at where
Stone
Homeside Flower Florist used to be. It's in Riverhead
Corner.
Oh, okay.
on the corner. And there's the Food Institute has a full kitchen there.
Oh, yeah, they
That
have all
perhaps
the,
they could get
Yeah.
space,
the
you know,
farmers
to
markets
use.
there.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Right, that place.
No, and they've
That's
been
a
in-
big
and Head
empty
Start's been in
building.
contact with all the churches and all, I believe in that same location, they've also looked into that.
Okay. I mean, as far as their immediate need for storage, I'm totally fine with them putting everything in West Hampton.
Or in the tray, what do you
Right,
call
the
it?
trailer.
So,
Container.
The
on
container.
the storage end of it, they've requested and have had access to the building since this Monday, since 9:30 this Monday. I personally, Tommy John, we walked through the building this last week on Friday beforehand. I was impressed. It's a school. It's a miniature school. They have a huge, good-looking, commercial, functional kitchen. They have 4 large, oversized classrooms. To have 2-3 offices for the school administration, and then 3 or 4 or 5 other offices for counseling, healthcare, and whatnot. It's noteworthy. And then parking, and then obviously the Children's Museum to go up front. So to replace this and to do it well enough that we learned from what was cost effective back then, which got 33 years out of it, you know, is not going to be cheap. They don't have a place for storage. We could obviously provide, you know, a trailer or whatever like this, but they're going to want to use as much as they possibly can. And right now, they're going through the offices and whatnot, all of which is accessible, to take out and to kind of keep the balls in the air for what they want to do with their program.
I've just
forward.
mentioned West Hampton because it's an empty space. It's not being utilized at the moment, and for storage for them in the interim to basically have a place to land all this stuff, because if you're talking about a commercial kitchen and all these other things, it's a lot of space that they're going to need, and I think moving it to there and then giving them some breathing room to figure out where they're going or what we're doing next even is potentially.
I'm sorry, your point is well taken, except we're not dropping this building anytime soon.
Oh, I know.
So we're okay, you know, and the HVAC still works, nothing's getting trashed, nothing's becoming environmentally challenged. So everything is okay right where it is right now, until such time as there's a resolution to allow for the demolition. And even then, so they've got a very good storage location right now. And they'll take what they need to some other location. But yes, to your points, well taken.
I guess my major concern is the programming, and when, you know, ensuring that their programming can start and the students are served adequately. You know, I guess one of the things we may want to look into is really figure out if you know, Suffolk Community College can assist. I know that you've reached out. I'm happy to help out in any efforts as well. I know the union president of the FA, Dante Morelli. There's a lot of, you know, obviously efforts that they like to take on that are service oriented. This could be something that they may be willing to kind of at least look at for us, and as well as the Riverhead County Center. You know, our partners at the county, if they have any space in that building. I know there's some areas in that building that aren't used anymore, or at least aren't used fully. So maybe we can also look into that and ask the county if they're willing to help out in any way, shape, or form. That's just
I just wanted to point out that, you know, the 55 students that are Riverhead School District students, you know, every kid in Riverside and Flanders in the town of Southampton is a Riverhead School District child.
Mm-hmm.
So they're
Right.
Southampton town.
I mean, whether
Kids,
they're
most
us
of
or
them.
100%.
theirs, I mean,
The short kids.
They're the kids in the
Yep.
community, so, yeah. But we have reached out, and now also with Tommy John, I have a laundry list of people that we've reached out to find out what else is in the location. And I'm still following up 2-3 times a week with Head Start. And I've just made myself the point of contact with them for the town, just, you know, to have somebody.
What are the other 32 students, 33 students?
They're
Hampton.
town of Southampton.
Mm-hmm.
they're non-contractually related to Riverhead.
Could be Hampton Bays School District, could
Yeah.
be
Someone else.
ESM, could be.
Well, that was one of the discoveries, was that, we were actually housing 55 students from the Riverhead,
Right.
funded by the Riverhead School District, which
Which there was no
is like,
hesitation or.
we've been saying to
acknowledgement
Riverhead, it is
by
us
the
too.
superintendent.
Well, that's the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to the
Yeah.
table saying, yes, we're part of your school district. Yes, we help out when
Mhm.
we can. And now we have this situation. And I think it needs to be a huge priority for us to get this building or some facility for them back online as quickly as possible. So, and that's what I'm saying. I'm like, if we're going to come to the conclusion that no matter what, this building has to be demoed, the faster it comes down, the faster we can
Right.
work towards getting something up.
Right.
Right, there's
So-
a short-term challenge of getting the children in a facility now,
Well, maybe that one up at
and then getting something in the
Cindy
future.
said, the one on the, that used to be Homeside Florist, if that building is functional and empty, that's a large facility.
Pretty big.
Well, the Food Institute does their programming out of there and they do a farmer's market. So.
You're talking about the one on 105 and
Yeah,
25?
58 and 105.
I think they were, that was in the middle of renovation. Not sure where that is.
I think it's got to be close,
It's
but they were
close.
doing a whole commercial kitchen to have as you could come in with as a small business and utilize that kitchen facility. And I'm sure if we reached out to them and said, listen, we have a school that needs use of the kitchen X amount of hours.
What's
a week or
classrooms
whatever.
too, though, right? I mean, that's the main thing, right? Classrooms. Is
Yeah, but that place I don't think it's all big. It's one big open space where they put
Yeah,
in
no.
stalls for
Familiar with it, yeah.
I don't know for a classroom how it.
Right.
I don't know.
Let's circle back with Head Start and see how they're doing,
Yeah.
and we will
Yeah.
compare
Yeah.
notes.
Wonder if
and-
there's any,
Calls out to
wonder if there's any space
I
in
don't
the
know if
county
anybody
center.
reached out
so.
to Living Water Full Gospel Church. They used to run a school out of that building.
The churches have all been contacted.
Okay.
And what about support from the state or other municipalities?
Well,
that
that's
you
going to
said?
take some time. I think it's there, but and I know that universal pre-K is a priority in the state. But like I said, even if they wanted to do this tomorrow,
Right.
we need funding allegations, grant requests, and then the actual construction.
How much are do we know how much like
So I think that's certainly part of this.
the trailer classrooms that Riverhead School uses?
Don't know.
I have to find out.
Could we find out that?
Yeah, those, I actually, when I went to Riverhead High School, I took math classes in those trailers, and this is
They work.
2007, and they were portables.
They
At that
were.
point in time, I believe they had a bathroom. They were pretty large.
Even if we could
facility
maybe
for
put
those.
those on their property while we take care of what we're doing on ours.
We can look into it.
Or why, maybe they'll end up using their property. I mean, if they have an acre and a half that they already own.
Well, then we could demo ours and put the trailers on that for now, or
Yeah. Yeah.
Vice versa.
And their property is not in great shape. The
Well, they
parking
have-
lot has grass growing up through it, and then they have a fence around the structure because the structure is that bad.
Yeah.
I would consider it.
But certainly a
vacant lot
location.
for these purposes.
Oh, what's that?
I
Mhm.
would consider it a vacant lot for construction purposes.
Mhm.
Some demo, but
Right.
nothing salvageable.
Mhm.
Look at the courthouses, there, and waterfall buildings.
Yes, they are a different type of modular construction. They are elevated on foundations, and they sit on foundations with skirting around them.
Double
These
wides.
were landed on foundations.
Yeah.
A little different.
And trailers for preschoolers,
yeah,
little people.
bathrooms are
They
smaller.
take ramps, no steps.
Anything else you want to tell us?
They're all 80.
Now, the projected demo cost is $200,000.
Approximately, yes. We reached out to the current contractor that was doing the construction of the project, just because they're already part of the project. If we needed to demo this building, it would likely be the most reachable expeditiously. So it's about $200,000.
Yeah, could that be money that we've already earmarked for the project that they embarked on?
No, that was grant money for CME, right?
What's it called, grant money?
Yeah, so part of it was grant money from CME, part of it was town money.
Mhm.
Was it a bond or just town money?
You'd have to ask the controller. They just.
There was a
gave me the
grant,
money.
there was a
Yeah.
grant from the county,
Yes.
Right.
pretty
And-
large
and
grant.
That was for
CME's
5
been
and
made
change.
aware of everything and has been updated from as soon as we were able to say this was not really financially feasible to move forward.
We get a grant, no problem.
I guess
mean,
that's the
the-
question.
The
Can we
positive
use
is we
that
could get a
money?
space that's completely, functional for all of the uses now.
Yes.
Right.
I want to reiterate that we really don't have an option at this point, and I did mention one institution, and it was kind of like, okay,
It's nothing
we'll look,
concrete.
right? No commitment on their part, not in any bad way. It's just very preliminary.
It's also, you're geographically limited because you can't have parents driving to Southampton in the traffic to drop their kids off to go
Yeah.
to work. It's just not gonna happen.
Be late for work and late to go to school.
But we did a complete survey of all available churches, town buildings and whatnot in that kind of area,
Yeah.
all of it through there. And it's, even, the Croman Center, could you squeeze in half of this school and that would really.
How many?
be-
I'm sorry. How many students again? 88.
88 total.
Between 5 classrooms.
And then there's the kitchen that services
All
more
of
than
them.
twice that number and another
More.
100
Right.
plus
And then
students.
Administrative offices, there's a school nurse, there's a therapist's office, there's enough facilities to operate a school,
How many square footage is that now?
9,200 square feet.
92. Pretty good size.
Mhm.
But for 33 years, the town did a good thing.
We collected we did some notes, $364 in rent, $396
John, I
in rent
provided
over that
you-
time.
Years. I did a lot of
$1
good.
a month.
I've provided you with the union president of the Suffolk Community College. He said that the college is happy to look into this and would probably be interested in helping. So I've given you his contact information. I would recommend reaching out.
Call now.
Thank you,
Michael.
Michael.
Sure.
If he had known earlier, he could have called earlier.
Well,
We have reached
apologies
out
for
to him
the
and
breakdown in
the
communication.
administration.
He's already reached out from last
But,
week before
yeah.
that.
Oh, you reached out to the college already?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you
So-
for.
Thank you.
All right,
Sad
thank you.
story.
Thank you,
for the
Tom.
update. Okay, that brings us to the town council member and supervisor liaison updates. Councilwoman McNamara, do you have anything you want to
I
add?
do, but I'm not prepared at the moment.
Okay, Michael?
Yeah, just a couple of things.
Okay.
So I'll just say we are in the midst of our planning committee for Shinnecock Heritage Day, which is expected to take place on October 1st. We're working to identify the run of show, what's going to take place on that day, and I can tell you we have a couple of tribal members who are very excited about it. As well as some of our own team here at the town who are working with us on that. So I will look forward to having more of an update as we sort of solidify those plans after our next planning committee meeting. I'll also say that me and Tom Houghton, as well as Tom Neely, our co-chair with the Traffic Mitigation and Safety Task Force, went out to a couple of site visits this week. We looked at some roads in Bridgehampton, as well as a location in North Sea, to identify some of the issues with respect to traffic over there, those two locations. And actually 3 locations. We had two locations in Bridgehampton and 1 location in North Sea. Tom H. is preparing some recommendations, as well as Tom Neely, and we'll look forward to working with Highway once we get those recommendations. And we'll also, when if needed, we may also, in some of the parts of Bridgehampton that we're looking at, there's sight distance interference. So we may want to engage with Ryan Murphy in public safety to make sure that's various homes on some of the corners Maple Lane and Lumber may need to clear some of the vegetation that might be blocking some of the traffic. So we're looking at it. We're going to look at what needs to be done, and I'm hoping that we can have some solutions going forward.
Yeah, looking forward to that too.
Thank you.
I've just been, working on the budget every spare minute, meeting with Dorothy, going through all the department head requests and trying to make it work. It's challenging.
Then we're gonna have a meeting about that, you said, to go over the budget beforehand.
Well, I'm supposed to present the budget to the board on or before September 30th. But I'd be happy to meet with you all in groups if you'd want some insight into what's happening.
That'd be a very good idea. I don't think that was done previous.
All right, and Bill, what do you have?
Last week I met with Councilman McNamara and Deputy Highway up in East Quogue about the no parking, and we came to a idea. We're just waiting to get some input from the county on that. I spoke to the Deputy Highway yesterday. He said he's continue on the next phase of the sidewalks down by
Remsenburg?
no,
The bridge?
right down by the bridge. Remsenburg is
Hampton
still
Bays.
coming. Hampton Bays. And then I took a tour with Ed Thompson and the deputy supervisor up at the Southampton transfer station to how we can improve it and clean it up and see what it needs. It's the place is a mess. There's only one person there running it that day, and that was it.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. John?
Sure. Last night, Franca had its monthly meeting. A very interesting meeting. Generally speaking, they are pleased with the direction that we're taking with Wildwood Lake. That there is a change over there. As we know, it was inundated with non-residents, and so we've made some changes there. There's still some work to be done, and so there's still some folks and some of the members of the community did indicate that. And I just want to let you know, Mike, that Franca is planning to have a watch party for the traffic mitigation task force. So they're going to set up their own meeting and their own feed to watch the meeting. So I thought that was kind of exciting and good for them. They're plugged in and they're watching what happens in their community. They had a presentation last night from Sepa Mujer, and it was on human trafficking on Long Island. It was very interesting, and it was good for the folks in the community and really for everybody to hear about the various signs of human trafficking and the populations who are vulnerable in that. And it does happen in New York State, and it does happen on Long Island as well. So,
And so the courts have set up a new court system just to address the human trafficking. It was
Right.
press conferences that
right.
District Attorney and Administrative Judge Cracker talked about that this week. Yeah.
So it's happening. Vulnerable populations, these are children and teens in foster care, people who struggle with substance abuse, LGBTQ youth, runaway homeless youth, and of course people in economic hardships, poverty, or immigrants. A lot of the populations that you would imagine. It was very informative and interesting presentation. I would certainly highly recommend it. Also last week, the Hampton Bays Alliance had a meeting. They got a presentation regarding the pattern book that we are working on, and I believe it was a very positive meeting. There was input, for, against, and it's not. I shouldn't put that in broad terms. They were discussing the aspects of the proposal that we're looking at. So I thought it was a good meeting for Hampton Bays. It was held in the library. There was about 175 people there. I found the setup to be very conducive to that kind of meeting. They had everyone sitting in a circle, like a large, like rings of people in the circle. So all of the energy was focused toward the center of that meeting, and people got to speak their mind and ask questions. It was essentially to meet Mr. Kiola, who is one of the major, probably the major investor slash developer over there if things were to move forward. So he got to speak to the community, and the community got to ask questions directly to him. So I thought in all it was good because it was a healthy exchange of ideas in Hampton Bays.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have tonight, there is a concert at Good Ground Park in Hampton Bays at
Yay.
6 o'clock. It is Wood Vibrations. We are also partnering, or I'm partnering with Hugs, our police department, and our youth bureau. We're doing a drug take back and a school supplies drive at the concert tonight. There's also, as speaking with Tracy Colson, there was usually they do a school supply drive, and he wasn't going to actually do one this year, but so many agencies reached out and asked him, are you doing, there's definitely a need. So there are collection areas at Southampton Town Hall and also at the Bridgehampton, Flanders, and Hampton Bays community centers. And those will be picked up on September 6th. So if anybody would like to donate, they are available downstairs.
Thank you. That's good stuff. All right, then that's it for the updates. I move to go into executive session to discuss acquisitions, personnel, get some confidential legal advice, and then close the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everyone.